This is a design question, so there isn't necessarily a single right answer, but we can make some informed judgments based on the desired behavior spec. Let's take a look at each one of the possible choices, starting with donation has at least 2 collaborator classes. Well, the behavior spec says that patrons can make donations, so that implies that there's some collaboration between a patron class and a donation class. We also know that for donations we need to track which fund the donation is for. That suggests that there's probably a class that models a fund, and that class would be a collaborator for donation as well. So the first statement seems reasonable. Let's come back to the second statement later and go on to donations and tickets should implement a common interface such as purchasable. Because donations are something that you can buy and tickets are something that you can buy, this seems like it's a reasonable suggestion. And in a moment we'll compare it to having donations and tickets subclassing from a common ancestor. What about donations and tickets implementing an interface such as reportable? Well, again, even though the reports might be somewhat different, the idea that we can create reports showing a fund activity in terms of which donations it has and showing the performance activity in terms of which tickets were sold for that performance, one could make the case that there is a common behavior to be captured and that there's an interface that could be used to mix that behavior into these donations and tickets. So what about number 2, donations and tickets should subclass from a common ancestor? On the one hand, you would think that if they were subclassing from a common ancestor, the purchasing behavior could be in the superclass, and we wouldn't need to worry about mixing in an interface such as purchasable. But the behavior spec also suggests that donations are at least as different from tickets as they are similar. For example, donations have a fund and tickets don't. Donations don't expire and tickets do. So the idea that the customer even says other things that don't apply to donations suggests that it might be premature to think about donations and tickets inheriting from a common ancestor, because inheritance is about behavior reuse at the class level, but it's not clear that donations and tickets reuse that many behaviors. But on the other hand, if we put those behaviors into modules and mix the modules in as interfaces, we have the flexibility to get behavior reuse without requiring that they inherit from a common ancestor. So our answer to the design question is that in this example, the behavioral spec doesn't really justify the choice to make donations and tickets inherit from a common ancestor class.